Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. It is Wednesday. Let's take a look at some altcoins, and it hasn't changed much week over week. We're starting to see a little strength around the edges a little bit. Alts are beta to BTC, so if BTC is +4 on the day, alts should be +8. If you are in alts and you're not +8 today when BTC is +4, you really have to question what you're holding if it outperforms to the downside and doesn't catch up or overperform to the upside. Looking at a broad index of alts versus Bitcoin, we've continued to see weakness for years. This hasn't changed since realistically 2022. Even before then, the bull party was over by the end of 2021. We broke into the cloud here, and that was it. Now you could look at Total 3, others, you can look at other stuff, right? But on a broad scale, we're not seeing strength. Most of this is ETH weakness, to be fair, or just page 172 alt weakness. But in the index, most of this would be ETH and SOL against BTC. And there just is not any evidence on my end, based on what I like to trade, to be long alts here broadly. I'm going to go over a bunch of charts today that would be charts I like, things to watch, because I haven't really talked about that too much on the alt videos. It's mainly been, this is bad, this is awful, this is horrible, this is a dumpster fire. So let's talk about what I'd like to see. Now this is a great example of a easy, lazy river, rocking chair, old timer, sipping lemonade bull trend where it's just continuous up. You obviously want to catch this in a decent spot at the very least, but ideally, in the beginning, ideally 2023, you have rotated into alt or out of alts and into BTC, and you're not up here wondering, man, what did I do with my life for the past 2 years when I could have been sitting in BTC? So up here, yes, it is bullish. Dominance continues to be bullish, unquestionably. A lot of people wondering how far this can go. The trend doesn't look weak. It doesn't show any signs of weakness. It doesn't show signs of div or triple top or any reversal chart patterns. So there's no immediate urgency by the looks of it for me to see this fall off. Even up here, we had a head and shoulders. Down here, we had a triple bottom, quad bottom, whatever, that eventually broke up. We had an Adam and Eve at the very bottom. We don't really have any of that here. If anything, we had an inverted head and shoulders the other day throughout April, May, June. That broke up. And this looks like it should continue in the near future at the very least. There's just no reason that this shouldn't keep going higher. Things to watch, obviously, rates coming down, any hint of rates coming down on Friday from Powell, and the election. Those are really the two biggest influencers for BTC relative to alts. The election mainly because of regulations and hostility towards altcoins from one party or the other. Looking at Total 2 against USD, a lot of people have sat in alts despite continued weakness of Total 2. They either missed the SOL train, they missed the BTC train, or they've just been sitting in the wrong alts and are miserable. But Total 2 is still below the 200-day moving average, below the cloud. Now we have seen a little bit of pep in the step here on Total 2, likely thanks to continued prints of stables, specifically Tether, which is really not what you want to see. I mean, any stablecoin is great for alts, but what you really want to see, and watch for this in the next 3-6 months, watch for the USDC prints. That's what you want, because that plugs directly into DeFi, in my opinion, in a greater way than Tether does. So it's great to see DeFi, or it's great to see Tether growing, but in reality, if USDC starts to grow in a big way, that's when you know this is likely speculative related, likely on-chain DeFi related, and not necessarily being used as a dollar in the global south or Asia, wherever, right? That's what a lot of people are using Tether for. Even in Russia, a lot of people are using Tether as money. Not exactly doing that with USDC. And you can see the difference here in the rate of change of circulating supply of Tether in the white, USDC in the yellow. USDC has really gone nowhere since March. Oh, gee, what else has gone nowhere since March? Well, Total 2, BTC, right? All this stuff. So a lot of this Tether print probably isn't getting used necessarily for speculation on chain, but just shows you that there's dollar demand globally. So it's best when both USDC and USDT are minting. We're not quite seeing that yet, but that's, again, something to watch for. What we are seeing is significant dollar weakness over the past couple of weeks, where we briefly had a 100 handle on the dollar index today. It's hard to know or expect how much more weakness we're going to get in the near term, just because 100 is a pretty big psychological level. It would make more sense if we start to see some consolidation at that 100 level before the breakout lower. But this is certainly very, very bearish. The last time we were this bearish, it took us several months to make an inverted head and shoulders. And then the time before that we were this bearish was 2020 into 2021. Again, several months to make a triple bottom inverted head and shoulders. So once this train starts moving lower, in reality, it gives us about a year. You know, if this is, let's say this isn't a bear trend on DXY, even if it's a bearish consolidation or eventual bullish reversal, that could take an entire year, which would be fine because that goes into 2025. And that would give some breathing room to BTC and alts and all the other fun stuff like NFTs. So we're almost there. We're almost there. And in another couple of months, it should be crystal clear that potentially total 2 BTC would be bullish. I'd imagine in the next 8 weeks, we will know. And then total 2 USD will probably be back above both the cloud and the 200-day moving average. If we look at the NFT stuff, this is NFT price floor, just as a gauge of, is anybody here? Does anybody care? Is there any speculative activity at all on the altcoin side? NFTs probably represent the most extreme far out on the risk curve, and they have just started to perk back up. This is in ETH. You can sort this by USD somewhere. I think if you change the denominator, Bored Apes also slowly coming off the floor here. Slowly. I mean, look at this decline from over 100 ETH to under 10 ETH in 2 years. I'm not an NFT buyer. I'm not an NFT speculator. But if I'm looking for something to do that is extremely, extremely far out on the risk curve, it would be stuff like this that's down 90% or whatever it is. Penguins have actually held up quite well year to date. But in general, they haven't gone too far anywhere. And then we can always look at the watch index. This is 60 high-end watches. I'll put the link to this in the description of the video if you're curious on what makes up this index. But these are still making lows. Post-pandemic, you can see how this exploded, and we're still making lows here month over month over month. And this is kind of what you'd expect in something that got extremely overheated post-stimmy, post-PPP loan, inflation, too much money chasing too few goods. And now that has went all the way back to the January 2021 open on this index. So before I talk about what to look for on the charts, let me talk about today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with a link in the description of this video. Non-investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures Inc., PVI, DBA, Kraken. One such alt that fits my criteria that we've talked about. Most of this stuff isn't ever a surprise just because so many people are kind of chirping at me various charts and things. So for me, that's a benefit because then I can come to you and say, look, we've been talking about this for probably a year now, almost. This is AAVE. AAVE started to look decent once it had formed this year-long inverted head and shoulders, triple bottom thing, right? It broke above the cloud, reconsolidated. So this is the type of thing I have no problems entering, trading, whatever. It's making higher highs. There's clearly someone trading this and paying attention to this. I don't know why. I don't really care. It's top 10 or whatever this is on Kraken today. A few others that are up quite a bit. Matic on the USD pair. You couldn't really tell, but it's up quite a bit. What else is up today? FTM, 16%. Now, most of these don't have a bullish trend, where I would argue AAVE is on the bullish side of the cloud. It's going to have a bullish TK cross here on the high time frames. It's finally doing something. Whereas for years, it's done nothing. And most importantly, it's doing something when not many alts are doing anything at all. So I'll come back to alts, but as far as things that I like to see, let's go into legacy land for a few minutes here. What do you want to see? For me, it's usually the same thing, always. Years of chop. The last thing you want to be doing is sitting in years of chop of anything. I would much rather come at the end of this and say, oh, look at this chart. It's been 2.5 years, 3 years. Let's give it a shot. All right, this is Roblox, RBLX. It doesn't really matter what it is most of the time if the chart looks good enough, at least for me. So if there's any alt that looks like this, and this goes back to AAVE in October 2023, it could take this chart another 3 to 6 months to break out, but it's to the point here where, yeah, I'll give this a chance. So I took a trade on this today. Square is kind of the opposite of that example because it really hasn't been able to get above its 77.80 resistance level for the past couple of years. And you can see the last time it was at this level, it took off. And there are a lot of alts that are just in this forever purgatory, which is why I prefer to buy closer to the breakout. I'd rather be wrong at the potential breakout level than sit in this thing at any point between 50 and 70. It just doesn't make sense to me. But that's me. Some people would say, oh man, this looks great. And they might look at an alt like Matic and say the same thing. Oh man, this is at the range low, it bounced, this looks great. You'll find over time that that isn't really the best play to make. ARK is another one. It's chopped around for years. It was a punching bag a few weeks ago. It's a continuous punching bag. It's full of junk. And I'm kind of talking about these charts specifically. Similar to the watch chart, this is a great index for alts for speculative activity in the market, animal spirits, whatever. If ARK starts to take off and make higher highs, it is very likely that liquidity is back, rates are low, cheap money is pumping the system, and everything's looking for a new home outside of money markets or treasuries or whatever. So I wouldn't touch this here, but yeah, like it's something else to add to the watch list just to see if you're looking for other reasons to be bullish alts. What do I want to see? Now, this is a great example. PayPal. Talked about this for, I don't know, over 2 years probably at this point. Finally, the cloud is saying, okay, let's do this, right? Now, contrast that with ETH BTC, right? Does this look anything like PayPal or any of these other charts? No, it's not at the highs. It's not curling up. It's curling down. So, of course, I'm bearish on this. It's just not for me. It just doesn't make sense. You are potentially in 2023 of PayPal, right? You've potentially got 3 to 6 months on ETH BTC until this thing starts to curl up. It just doesn't make sense. Like, this is what you're looking for. This is exactly what you're looking for on ETH BTC, and we're just not there yet. Hood is another one. Years of sideways. Back to the AAVE example. This is where you want to be most of the time. You want to be at the very end, after years of chop, above the cloud, ready to go. This took a few months after the breakout, still held above the cloud, and took off, right? This is what the alt charts should look like, just as Total 2, right? If we go back to Total 2, where is it? It wasn't a secret. Total 2 looked very similar before the breakout. Does Total 2 look like that here? No, it doesn't. It just doesn't. So it's just not ready yet. Toast is another one similar. You always love to see, love to see consolidation at the top of the range. So even BTC here, what do we want to see? Consolidation towards 70, above 65. Any of that is exactly what you want to see for breakout potential. So this one's kind of gone back and forth. It's wishy-washy. But show me which alt looks like this. Show me. It just doesn't exist. Zoom is the opposite example and a reminder to avoid stuff despite something's down 99% or whatever it is. You really have to avoid these value traps, or however you want to justify it, until we make higher highs. Great example here, because you can just sit in this thing like PayPal, right? For years and years and years, and it goes nowhere. Wait for momentum to poke its head above resistance first. You will find you will be happier than sitting in something like this, miserable, or sitting in something like Peloton, miserable. This is where alts are right now. This is alts. They're doing nothing. They've done nothing. Now, this could be the bottom in alts, could be the bottom in Peloton, Zoom, right? This video could mark the bottom. Peloton even had a triple bottom here, failed. But you will be happier waiting for strength rather than hoping that this weakness turns around randomly. GoPro is another great example. This is ETH BTC. accelerated downside. Now this looks worse than ETH BTC, but it was clear in 2022. It's just not the time for GoPro. Okay, like this is why trend metrics are important on a high time frame. You can believe in ETH. You can think it's just great fundamentally. It's going to replace everything in our life. But if you want to make money, you need to slap on some technicals and see where it's headed. And yeah, this is super oversold. They have some terrible fundamental news, but I'm not touching this. Why? And alts are the same. It just doesn't make sense. If we look at charts that I like to watch, it's stuff like this. I've talked about these for months as well, going on a year at this point. You don't want to be surprised that one day someone's tweeting about any one of these charts or stuff that looks like this. You never want to be surprised that sand is up 10x 1 month. You want to be ready at the resistance levels, at the horizontal levels, which just so happen to be back in the weekly cloud. These look like they may have been ready to launch in early 2024. We just didn't have enough liquidity in the ecosystem. They may be ready again later on, but I wouldn't give up on these. I also wouldn't load the boat down here just expecting them to bounce, because back to the GoPro, Zoom, Peloton, these could just be in purgatory forever. So you definitely want to wait for momentum to come back on your side. Now I know people who are DCAing algo versus BTC or DCAing stuff way down the risk curve versus ETH, Solana, whatever. That's fine. That'll maybe pay off, maybe, right? We don't know. That's a huge gamble. So it wouldn't surprise me that 2 of these play out and 4 of them don't. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So most of the time you're better off just waiting. Zcash, again, a great example of something that was just down for years and years and years. Had a decent move higher, but you're better off just waiting for strength. This may continue, it may not. It doesn't look horrible. It looks better than most alts, to be honest, but you're really better off waiting for the strength. And if you're not waiting for strength on a bear trend, you could be waiting for strength on a bull trend. Ton is like this right now. BNB is like this right now. This is EA. This is probably an ascending triangle. Looks like it wants to go higher. We've talked about XLE for probably 6 months at least. This thing looks like it wants to go higher. And I have much more conviction in charts that look like this than charts that look like GoPro or Zoom or Peloton. Okay, these are where alts are right now for the most part. There are very few alts that have any strength at highs, consolidating at highs right now. Meta is another one. It's consolidating at highs. This is what you're looking for. It just did this last year, by the way. This is what you're looking for in alts. Look for charts that look like this. IGV, same thing. This looks a lot like BTC. This looks like a massive cup and handle, ready for highs. There's almost no alt that looks like this right now. Nothing. Great chart. Great looking chart. NVIDIA is another one. This may form a right shoulder at 130. It may just go explode on earnings. But this is what you're looking for. You're not looking for the GoPros and the Zooms and the Pelotons of the world. Even to miners, Wolf, this is another example of bullish continuation. Potentially down the road here, something to watch for would be the bullish TK cross here on Wolf, which is closer to, where is it? Sorry, Ton, great example. Bullish continuation potentially into September, October. Wait for the bullish TK cross. But this chart looks phenomenal compared to most of the alts right now. It held the highs of the range. It's got narrative or whatever behind it. Sure, maybe a 2x from here. Now, does this mean I would 100x long this right now? No, it means buy some spot, wait for the breakout, keep adding, add on the TK cross. I like leverage at the breakout, but not before. That's just me. I will perpetually buy the highs and be wrong, then sit in this thing and eat nothingness forever on leverage. I'm willing to do that on spot, but not leverage, personally. BNB, again, another example. Maybe you get a right shoulder, maybe you don't, but it's back to this VPVR resistance level that it was forming at around 600 earlier in the year, and it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad. So if we go back to Kraken, we look at the BTC pairs, because those are really the pairs that matter. Is there any strength remotely on any of this stuff? Is the first question, right? Is this trending at all in any direction? Answer that. And then, does this look strong, weak? Does this look ready to break out? That's the decision tree. Sol BTC here did not get a bullish TK recross. Hasn't had one yet. Has dealt with this head and shoulders. Still dealing with that head and shoulders. Looks like it's leaning bearish relative to BTC. The Sol ETF getting canceled, closed, regulated to death, probably playing a role here a little bit. So this does not favor a breakout just yet. I would want to see bullish TK cross on a high time frame. Now, this isn't as bearish as ETH BTC, obviously, right? We can look at that on Kraken. There's no question this looks horrible. It's continued to look horrible. I thought this might get an inverted head and shoulders, but it didn't even get that, just straight down. And we can look at the one metric that matters for ETH BTC is the 50-week moving average. Set an alert on the 50-week moving average for ETH BTC. It's the only thing that matters, or should matter, or will matter. When the price can close above the 50-week, then we can talk. Until then, I could care less. Let this thing sell off. Let it have a temper tantrum. It just doesn't matter. It could continue to go to the bottom, the bearish half of this pitchfork. It could. It's held this level nicely, but it doesn't look like it wants to live here much longer. That would be sub 04. It's just a number. It is what it is. Again, you can be bullish Ethereum relative to BTC. That's fine, but there is not price support for anything here. There just isn't, at least on trend. There's just nothing here. And the ETFs have not been kind to ETH. So if I had to choose one, it would be Sol over ETH. Tron, massive range. We've talked about this. Tron on the USD chart looks great. It has looked great. It's like the Bitcoin dominance of alts. It broke out in 2023 and just kept going. Not one I trade or talk about often, but on trend, it's done really, really well. It did break out recently. There's some Justin Sun meme coin shenanigans, and it looks a heck of a lot better than most everything in altland. I don't know if I would step in here, but it's certainly held up quite well relative to everything else. Against BTC, it's just really just chop. There's really nothing there. Ripple, a lot of people keep talking to me about how bullish this looks for Ripple. If we zoom way out on Ripple BTC, this could be a range low, potentially, for Ripple BTC. Okay, if we zoom in a little bit on, let's go back to like the daily cloud here. We have made some inroads on the daily cloud after a year and a half of down. So you have that on your side. Doesn't look horrible relative to BTC. I'll give you that. I will give you that. Monero, kind of the same. Only been down, starting to reconsolidate. Maybe a little bit of a cup and handle there. Doesn't look like an imminent breakout. Doesn't look super strong. Could just range like it did. Look at 2023. It ranged for 5 months and then went down, you know? So again, I like higher highs here on Monero against BTC. Matic having quite a day today, but what about the past 2 years? What about the past 3 years? What about since inception? The only times it's really done anything was above the daily cloud. So you can see where we are on this chart. We're not there yet on the daily cloud. Trend metrics are your friend. Definitely. You know, again, you could say, well, the bottom is here, Josh. That was a double bottom. It's a big day. It's a new day. Okay. But I certainly prefer to wait until Matic is above 1,000 sats, I think is that price on the chart. AAVE BTC, very strong on the BTC chart. This one, you can see it's above the daily. It's been above the daily before. It's gone nowhere. Let's check the 3-day. The first move above the 3-day since it started trading on Kraken, basically. So that's certainly noteworthy relative to everything else. You know, at least there's momentum here. At least there's momentum here. ADA is the opposite. Just nothing. There's just no momentum. Hasn't been above the 3-day cloud since October 2021. If we go to the daily cloud, several fake outs, so it's not super useful. But even still, doesn't quite look ready to me. I prefer active momentum, not let's buy this and hope it goes up. LTC, you have to look at this one on like the weekly, and there's just nothing. Again, this could be the bottom. You could have said that for the past 16 weeks, and it wasn't. So yeah, you can tell me that this is the bottom, but those same people that have told me that have been holding this for a while and have been wrong. Now we can look at bull divs. There is a bit of a bull div here on RSI. You can see lower lows in price, higher lows in RSI. So I like that. We go down on the 3-day. Not really a pattern here. Ideally, you're seeing a falling wedge or something, but not quite. But it does have a div. I'll give you that. Link, also nothing. No div on Link. Lower low price, lower low RSI. Massive turbo ultra chop. Nothing. Curve. Few people talking about curve recently. Let's take a look at the BTC chart, shall we? Well, nothing. Nothing's going on. It's been just a quick, this is the GoPro. It's been a quick death for the past 2 years, 2.5 years. Just nothing but down. You are down. Even since, let's go be generous, say mid-2022, you're still down 90% against Bitcoin here. So if you've been a Bitcoin maxi this entire time and you're thinking about shopping around for alts, if you're that person, which I think is unfortunately hardly anyone listening to this video, but if you are that person, it makes a lot more sense now than it did 6 months ago or 16 months ago. I'll give you that. But momentum is not quite on your side just yet. So if you're willing to eat a little pain, eat some more pain, then I don't hate that play. But most of these aren't quite ready yet. Atom, great example. I mean, there's just yes, sure, it's oversold. It's been oversold for a while. No div here yet. A lot of this speaks to the issuance differential between Atom and BTC, or any alt in BTC, unlocks, vesting, staking, all this stuff. There's just too many coins in circulating supply relative to BTC that this thing would hold up. And this has held bearish since the beginning of 2023. So I use the cloud because it doesn't fake you out. It doesn't randomly say in December 2023, oh, hey, this is bullish here on a high time frame. It doesn't do that, you know. It might be slow. Some people think it's too slow. Some people think they want more actionability faster, but it really keeps you out of trouble. Doge, another great example, hasn't been above the cloud since October 2022. There will be a day, though, when all of these start to break out against BTC. That's inevitable. We're just not there yet. It's just, they all need more time. You saw what I like. You saw what I'm looking for. BCH, also just chopping around. There's nothing there. Anything else on this list of note? Maybe some more DeFi stuff. Comp, just straight down. Nothing. It's always good to look around on the DeFi side of things. If there is anything else performing similarly, Maker, definitely not. This thing looks horrible. So it looks pretty AAVE specific to me, despite comp being up more against BTC than AAVE today. SNX, maybe another one. No, it's still down. So what are you looking for? You're looking for strength. You're looking for your favorite trend metric, price above that. You want to avoid sitting in the watch charts, right, for 2 years. You want to avoid sitting in ARC, sideways forever, Square, sideways forever, Zoom, Peloton, GoPro, right? You want to avoid this stuff. And unfortunately, ETH-BTC is an example where there just isn't any strength yet. That doesn't mean there won't be strength forever. Eventually there will be. Eventually this will turn around. Zero dots in my mind, unfortunately. But it just needs more time. We're just not there yet. And you're at the very least looking for stuff that looks like Zcash, which is crazy to say in current year. That's all I got for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.